ladies and gentlemen, Gary Moore.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Bill Wendell. Hi, everybody. Welcome once again to Tell the Truth. I have some astonishing facts here, which I'm going to read from a card because I didn't know these things myself till just before the show. I have just learned an astonishing fact, to me at least. Did you know that the assets and the holdings of the American Catholic Church probably exceed those of Standard Oil, AT&T, and U.S. Steel combined? I didn't know that. Well, that's what our next guest says, and we'll meet him as soon as we meet our principal asset, who is the Tell the Truth panel right now. Here we go.
Peggy Cash. Bill Cullen. Kitty Carlisle. And Gene Shalit.
Those of you with eyes like gimlets will notice that we have an added started with us today. We have the, how shall I describe him, anguished book and movie critic, Mr. Gene Shalit. A large hand for Mr. Shalit. Well, now let's meet a man who knows all about the Catholic Church's money.
Number one, what is your name, please?
My name is Nino Lobello.
Number two.
My name is Nino Lobello.
Number three.
My name is Nino Lobello.
And here is the monetary memorandum of Nino Lobello. He says, I, Nino Lobello, let me get a book here. He says, I, Nino Lobello, am the author of a book called Vatican, USA, a book that tells the tale of the enormous wealth of the American Catholic Church. The average annual income for the church is over $12 billion. The diverse holdings, many of them tax-exempt, include radio stations, newspapers, hotels, and distilleries. Individual orders have such businesses as fishing lure manufacturing or fruitcake baking. And one order of nuns even operates the parking lot next to the Detroit Tigers Stadium. The Catholic Church owns Washington's famed Watergate complex, and when the Pope spoke at Yankee Stadium, he was on home ground. And for all practical purposes, the entire cities of Fall River, Massachusetts, and Dubuque, Iowa, are owned by the Roman Catholic Church. Signed, Nino Lobello. Now, as you may remember, we have with us three gentlemen all claiming to be Nino Lobello, who has some startling facts about the financial holdings of the American Catholic Church. And I think we'll start with a young lady who has a vested interest, Peggy Cass.
I wish you hadn't said that. Number three, the Watergate complex is owned by the Catholic Church. Are you saying that?
Is entirely owned by the Vatican.
The whole Watergate place in Washington.
Yes.
Then not only were those guys committing a civil crime, they were committing a mortal sin. I mean, that's really terrible, isn't it, now?
Bugging is a mortal sin?
Yeah, now, number two, the Yankee Stadium, is that 100% owned by the Catholic Church? Because it's going to come as a terrific blow to the city of New York, where they think they own it.
It's owned, just the land is owned, not the Yankee Stadium itself. The land under Yankee Stadium.
Is owned by the church? Now, come on now.
It's owned by the Knights of Columbus.
Well, my dear, that's hardly the Catholic Church. That's an order within the Catholic Church. That's like saying that a Catholic owns a house at 55 Kirkland Street, Cambridge, Massachusetts, just because I'm a Catholic. Number one, are not all religious properties that are owned by religious orders tax exempt?
Yes, they are
then
tax exempt.
What did a nun do to you in the 6th grade that makes you so mad at the Catholic Church?
I got a vocation as a result of the nuns teaching me.
Oh, you did?
And then I got away from the seminary.
I see. Oh, hot in the dead of night, no doubt. Number two.
I think we ought to quit right there. Let's go to Bill.
I have never heard anyone so angry in my life.
I don't like that song.
I was just to sit next to her, I had to say 9 Our Fathers and 9 Hail Marys. to hold my seat. Number one, I don't know if anyone's talked to you. If the Catholic Church has all that money and all those holdings, we assume it can be converted into money, where does the capital go? Where is the money that this represents? Number one.
You mean how many billions, or
No,
to
no.
what source they go?
Yes, to what source does the money go?
The source is not centralized. It doesn't go to the Pope, or to the Vatican directly. Each one regulates itself.
Well, what
and-
you mean then, number one, is not the Catholic Church doesn't have this money or own these things, but various parishes
Right.
and organizations.
That's right, and various orders too.
In other words, I could take everything that was non-Catholic and in this country non-Jewish or non-Muslim and say the Protestant sect in the United States owns the rest of it. Is that right?
But the Pope makes it round. Every 5
No,
years
the
they have
Pope-
to report to the Pope.
They report to the Pope. What do
Yes.
they tell him, number one?
Well,
Does the Pope cut himself in for a piece of the pie, in other words?
no, it doesn't make it that
No, it's Pope
manifest,
pie,
but
it
it's
probably-
implied.
Excuse me.
It doesn't make it that manifest, but it's implicit. They are required to report to the Pope every 5 years. For example, the head of the orders, of the various orders,
Report to the Pope.
to report, and then
Right.
That buzzer just came in time for
Gracias.
us to go to Kitty
Gracias.
Carlisle.
Number two, does the Catholic Church own more property in this country, let's say the Protestants?
Yes, definitely. But do you mean the Protestants altogether or separate?
I mean the Protestant Church.
Well, there are many Protestant churches.
Well, let's lump them all
individual
together.
sects, for example.
Yeah, well, let's
But,
lump them all together. Do
no,
they-
the
they
Protestant
don't?
Church is ahead of the Roman Catholic Church.
Oh, I see.
Oh,
Number three, does a lot of this money go for missions?
But yes, they do go for missions, but most of the money is, that the Catholic Church is making is taken back by the teaching of the school and all these things.
So therefore it does go to schools. And number two, are you also a refugee from a seminary like number one?
No.
How did you come by this investigation?
Well, as a working journalist, I discovered that the Catholic Church had investments in private businesses, and I decided to investigate.
Thank you. Number three, do you believe the church property of any sect should be tax-free?
But they are not all tax-free.
Well, what isn't?
But you have some winery, for example, that is owned by the church. They are not tax-free. They
By the
pay
Christian
tax.
Brothers. Oh, I see. Thank you.
Thank you, Kitty, and we go to Gene Shalit, please.
I was interested in number two in that the entire city of Dubuque, Iowa, is owned by the Catholic Church. Does that include the local Temple Emmanuel too?
You want me to answer that
Yeah,
question?
I meant really literally, because this affidavit says quite literally that the entire city is owned by the Catholic Church. How is that?
I don't think Dubuque, Iowa has a Temple Emmanuel.
That's probably true. Any Jewish farmers are already on the kibbutz somewhere. Number three, what is the origin or the basis or the justification for tax exemption for a non-religious branch of a church to be tax exempt?
There has been an article, not an article, a law, and it's called Chapter 501, I think, that is making this non-profit organization not taxable. But actually, they have they diversify their business in certain commercial business, and this business they are taxable. So
I see. Thank you.
And there goes that bell. And everybody's going to get a vote. Peggy is going to write hers in letters of fire. And it is time now for us to vote for number one, or number two, or number three. We'll say that we pay $50 for each wrong guess. We pay $500 if nobody comes up right. And Peggy starts.
Well, unless it was no hard feelings, anybody, but unless it was a translation, which I didn't find out, I don't think number three wrote it, because he speaks I mean, he doesn't speak exactly fluent English, exactly, 100%. And
Something like Peggy.
And one,
I gotta say,
and as an
Bostonian isn't easily understood everywhere either.
Would you repeat what you just said, please?
I think it's number two. This is,
All righty, we
Why'd
got
you
a
say that in the
2
first
showing,
place?
and we're going to Bill Cullen.
Yeah, I had a reason, but Peggy took so much time, I don't have time to give it. I voted for number 2, too.
A pair of 2s, and Kitty coming out.
Well, I think it's probably number 2, but I voted for number 3 because he had all those business terms like diversify and tax exempt and all that business.
All righty, and Gene Shalit, how you going to go?
Gary, I just got to go for somebody who knows there's no Temple Emmanuel in Dubuque, Iowa.
Well, everybody except Kitty is going for number 2. We'll see whether Miss Carlisle is right, or the balance of the panel is right, or nobody's right. Will the real Nino Lobello please stand up? Almost. Good contestants. I don't know how the votes got bunched that way. Number 1, sir, what is your real name? What do you do?
My real name is Bruno Martini, and as my name seems to imply, I don't work for the Christian Brothers Distillery, but rather I park cars at Thompson Street Garage, and I'm a doctoral candidate.
Doctoral candidate. Good. And number 3, tell us about you.
My name is Renzo Bigi, and I'm the Metro D of the Rainbow Grill in top of this building.
This building, I believe, is owned, this building being the NBC building, I believe, is owned by Columbia University, and the buildings on it are owned by the Rockefellers, I believe. I'm not sure. Mr. Lobello, what is the wealthiest of the Protestant churches? Did you
Many people believe that the Methodists are, and I discovered in my trip through the 50 states of the United States that the Mormon Church in Utah, Salt Lake City, is in first place among the Protestant churches. The Methodists follow.
Well, it's a fascinating subject, and thank you very much for being our guest. Gentlemen, here on To Tell the Truth. Now let's meet our long-distance balloonist.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Bob Sparks.
Number 2.
My name is Bob Sparks.
Number 3.
My name is Bob Sparks.
And here is the soaring story of Bob Sparks. He says, I, Bob Sparks, am a balloonist with high and long hopes. It is my firm intention to become the first person to cross the Atlantic Ocean in a free-flight balloon, an incredible distance of 2,700 miles. Before starting this intrepid voyage, I will test my 73,000 cubic foot gas-filled balloon in an extended overland flight and on a trip over the Great Lakes as well. Crossing the Atlantic will not be simply for sport. I will carry some scientific equipment on board and will make measurements of a serious scientific or ecological nature. By the way, I've already completed over 280 flights. I've set the world's duration record for hot air balloons, and as far as I know, am the only member of the Balloon Federation of America to have maximum liability insurance coverage. Signed, Bob Sparks. And like it says, the last shall be first and the first shall be last. Gene, you were last time. You want to go first?
I'll also be last up in a balloon, I'll tell you. As is well known to America's stewardesses, I do not fly. And I have nothing but admiration for anybody to go up in a balloon that doesn't have anything to make it go. Now, I would like to ask number 1, he says that he has maximum liability insurance. On what basis, number 1, did the insurance company decide that you were a good risk?
I don't know what their decision was as to why I would have it, but I nevertheless have $500,000 in insurance on the balloon.
I hope nobody ever collects it. Number 3, what is the world's duration record for hot air balloons?
Well, I hold that record.
I know, but what is it? I mean, how long were you up there?
11 hours.
That's the record, 11 hours? Well, number 3, let me continue. How long is it going to take you to go across the Atlantic Ocean?
Well, at 25 miles an hour, it's going to take me 5 days.
Well, then you're really going to beat your duration record.
And that's going to take us down to Peggy, please.
Number 2, will you do this trip alone, or will you have a friend with you to join you in singing Lead Kindly Light? I mean,
I'll be alone.
oh, dear me. Now, number 1, how do you regulate how far up you go? I mean, if you're a balloon, you could just keep going up, and away. I mean, how can you keep, like, only a little way above.
Well, in a hot air balloon, if you want to rise, you merely turn on the burners, and it will heat the air inside the balloon and you rise. In a gas balloon, you throw some ballast over, and your balloon will rise on up until you are in equilibrium.
Thank you. Well, number one, are you hot air or or gas? Are you hot air or gas?
I do both.
Well, what are you going to be on this? Number two, what are you going to be on this flight?
In a gas balloon.
So you'll throw things overboard.
Yes.
Oh my goodness! Supposing you throw everything overboard and you still don't have nothing left to throw, and you're still going up. Well, you just jump out, I suppose. What do you do?
Yeah, I'll jump out, or if I have a rip tear in the top of the balloon, it lets all the gas out. But at a high altitude.
Yeah, at a high altitude, yeah.
At a high altitude, the boat would drop pretty fast.
All righty, fine. That takes us, please, to Bill Cullen.
Number three, I wasn't able to see the picture too well from where I am. Are you going to be in a sealed sphere, or are you going to be in a basket? I mean, your riding compartment, what's it going to be like?
Well, I'm going to be in a catamaran.
In a catamaran, in case you come down and see?
Right.
The idea being? Yes, go right ahead.
It's a catamaran that's going to have a specially built fence around the sides.
Mm-hmm. So if you come down in water...
Yeah, it'll be similar to a basket, but it'll have sails also, so...
Number one, 73,000 cubic feet. How many cubic feet of helium do you put into the balloon before you take off, number one?
73,000 cubic feet.
Number two, do you go along with that?
Yes.
Number three, I got to ask the same question.
Sorry, Bill, we're going to go to Kitty Carlisle.
Oh, dear.
73,000 cubic feet. Filled balloon. Number three, is that 73,000 cubic feet?
73,000.
Yeah, I told you. I don't know. That's your question. Number one, who was Blériot?
I'm sorry, I do not know that name.
Do you know number two?
No, I don't.
Oh, my. Number three, do you carry a parachute?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to carry it on the transatlantic
I see.
flight. Yeah.
Number one, are you going to be full of hot air or gas?
The balloon will be filled with gas.
Number two, how many will you be?
Just myself.
That's all?
Yes.
And number three, what are you going to take to eat?
Well, the first day I'm going to take a nice big bologna sandwich. And after the first day, I have high-energy food, dried food, and I think similar to what, astronauts
Thank
take.
you. Number one, which way are you going? We forgot.
I'm sorry, Kitty. That little bell means that it's time for you to mark your ballots. The audience and I will mark our mental ballots, decide whether we think it's number one, or number two, or number three. And, Gene?
Well, I have to guess, huh?
Yeah, it's your turn first, so make a number no matter what.
Well, I am, unlike the balloon, I am torn, and I don't know whether to go to one or three, and my instinct is to go for three, so naturally I'm going to vote for number one.
All right, you got a one showing, and Peggy.
Well, I think if I were going up in a balloon, even for a short run, I would want to go with a very precise and careful person. And number one is the most precise of the three, so I voted for him.
A pair of ones. Bill Cullen coming
To
out.
explain my repeating question, if the capacity of the bag is 73,000 feet, and you put 73,000 feet of helium into the bag, when the bag reaches altitude, that gas needs expand. And it better have a greater capacity, or there's going to be an awful explosion up there. Not explosion, because helium doesn't. I voted for number one.
All right, so
One
far
cubic
everybody has
foot.
gone out for number one. And Kitty?
Well, obviously, none of them are going up in that bag of yours, then. I see. Well, I think it needs a man with an awful lot of fantasy and verve and invention to do a thing like that, which number three has. But I voted for number one.
Well, everybody seems to feel safer with number one. If they were going on the balloon ride, we'll have to find out about it. The votes are all in with the real. Bob Sparks, please stand up. Sorry about that, gentlemen. It happens every now and then. Let's find out who your friends are, Bob. Number two, what is your real name? What do you do?
My name is Denny Leone, and I teach astrology.
Should go with him. You could use it. Number three, carefree as you are with your bologna sandwich. What's your real name? What do you do?
My name is Lenny Groden, and I drive a taxi cab right now.
Gene Charlotte has just asked me, Bob, what is your endurance record, the actual endurance, right? Number 3 said it was 11 hours. What?
Well, the actual hot air record is 11 hours, 14 minutes at this point, which I did last December, about a month ago. Gas ballooning is an altogether different animal. The record there is 68:40, although once, about 1913, 2 Germans stayed up for 87 hours, I believe.
So based on that, you think you can make it?
Yes, sir.
Bob, good luck to you. We'll be hearing about it. And thank you, gentlemen, also for being with us. We were just talking here amongst ourselves during the commercial about the amount of mail we were likely to get on the first spot about the Catholic Church. I see no reason for it. Let's assume that you've got 12 of anything, 12 corporations, 12 churches, 12 businesses. Somebody's got to have the most.
That's right.
And because one happens to have the most, why? I don't see why we took it as an indictment, is what I'm saying, I guess. Goodbye.
This is Bill Wendell speaking for To Tell the Truth, a Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production.